Hey, everybody. So, supposed to be me and Michael Benz for creating Surreal AI Art, but Michael is having technical difficulties, and therefore it might just be me today. So, let's see what we have. We have John Williams there. Good to see you here, John. Always catch the recording after. Yes. And so, yeah. So, just a reminder today is creating Surreal AI Art with me and maybe Michael Benz. Otherwise, just me. I can walk you through all the different functions, different ways that I use to create AI art. So, for those who are coming in, welcome. Let me know where you are watching from. Just comment underneath wherever you're watching this, either Facebook, YouTube. I know Karen's in Belgium. Good to see you here, Karen. Don't be shy. See other people coming in. Let me know where you're watching from. Welcome. Rose, Christchurch, New Zealand. Good to see you here. That's right. For me, it's 1 in the afternoon. For her, it's breakfast time. Good to see you here. Okay. Well, lots to go over. So I'm going to jump on in. And Steve's here. Steve from Ontario, Canada. Good to see you here. Steve Perry. And Jim watching from DC. Good to see you here. Okay. Yep. From Belgium. That's what I thought. Good. I like the preview image for you. And John says, hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. Okay. Since I might be going solo today, please bear with me and do ask questions in the comments, and I might ask for feedback for prompts, etc. Okay. So how do I create Surreal AI art? So maybe last minute.
Yes, he's joining with my computer, Andrew. So
Okay, good. Better late than never.
Yeah. Sorry.
Good.
My meeting went over, and I don't know. The equipment was working when I first joined, but then something happened. I don't know what.
I think for today's format, maybe what we'll do is I'll have it so that I'll show things and then you give feedback and ask questions, and maybe I'll just be the one to present, just to keep the focus on time. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Unless you get real itchy to want to show something, then. And then John says, for a second, I thought Michael had a wig on.
Oh yeah, this is a wig.
Okay, great. So let me share my screen, and then I will go into Perplexity. Okay. So the first question might be from Michael or people in general. How do you create your prompts to create your AI art? And the way that I used to do it is I used to go and just kind of think of what is the most descriptive for what I'm doing, and then I would just kind of build a bunch of different, wordage descriptions for it, and then, kind of place it into the AI art app, see what it was, and then just keep building with the text. We got some people coming in, so yep, John, and I got
Hello, John.
Annette here. Good to see you, Annette. Hi, Andrew, Michael, everyone. Yes.
Hello, Annette.
And so I used to do things, the hard way, and then I realized while you're creating AI art, why don't you use AI apps to make your prompts, and make it easy. And so I've checked out u.com, and of course there's like ChatGPT, and I think there's now that, Google Gemini, but I'm a big fan of Perplexity. And so that's perplexity.ai, as you'll see here. And so you just go to the middle. It says ask anything. I'm just going to paste in similar to what I typically will ask for. So I'll say list a series of text prompts to create AI art of highly detailed surreal artwork focused on a fantastic planet. I could have just say, maybe I'll just get rid of the last part and just say highly detailed surreal artwork. And then I'm just going to hit the blue arrow button, and it takes literally 3 seconds. So 3 seconds, and all of a sudden here I am. Yep, Tommy's here. Good to see you here. From Sweden. Good to see you here. So yes. Yeah, nice. So so what'll happen is it'll even tell you, here is a series of text prompts designed to inspire creation of highly detailed surreal artwork using AI art generators. And then the one thing, I guess you could like it or dislike it, but the one thing that it does is it'll give you kind of like a theme. So it'll say twisted reality, and then it'll say surreal landscape where gravity is reversed, etc. Melting dreams, floating gardens. So it kind of gives you a title, and then it goes into the descriptive. And what I will tend to do is I will just copy the text prompt that you see here, put it in like a notes app, which I have various previous ones listed. And then from there, I'll go into my first AI art creator. So here I am in Adobe Firefly. And there you can get to by going to firefly.adobe.com. And then I am in the Inspire Images Gallery section. Now, the first thing to know, besides just, looking at pretty pictures, seeing the different kind of styles, is when you do scroll down, and there's Barb Bowman. I think she's in my AI art group. It's good to see here. So if you submit, and I'll show you how to submit, but if you submit your own work, you can also be showcased in the gallery. But there's all different kinds of styles, from more abstract to pretty to surreal itself. And as you go through, if I were to click on where it says view next to any image, or on the bottom right of any image, it will take me into Adobe Firefly with that prompt, where you can use that prompt yourself and maybe tweak it to make it a little bit more personalized, just to let you know. But, in general, you can see a wide variety of styles, and it is a very easy way to learn also about text prompts. All you got to do is hover, and it tells you what the prompt is that they used. So you could either take notes, or if you hit view, it takes you into Firefly. You could then copy it right from the text prompt area and then put in, like, say, a notes app. But it's a very good way to learn, and a way to kind of study other styles that people have done. I've been showcased throughout the years here. Might have been a while. This almost looks like something that I might create here on the right. So that's pretty cool. So, I could technically get that prompt by clicking view and then just tweaking it a bit. Okay. So in terms of me, I'm going to go down to the prompt area here at the bottom. I'm just going to paste it. So that was surreal landscape, gravity is reversed. And then when I hit generate. Now, the only thing I don't like about Firefly, when you start in that view from the gallery view, is it doesn't let you choose like the aspect ratio first. In this case, I'm fine. I don't mind it being square formatted, but it'd be nice if they gave us a little bit of options before you just hit the generate button. So here are the settings. So let me go over the settings, and hopefully this will be helpful for you, Michael, when you go to firefly.adobe.com, as well as anyone else watching, of course. Once you go to the top left, you have an option between the Firefly Image 3 model or the previous one. I tend to keep steady with the Firefly Image 3 model because it tends to have a bit more detail, and it's been updated, revised. It's kind of the best model out there now. And then, as I was talking about before, in terms of aspect ratio, once you click the down arrow, you have the options of landscape, portrait, square, which is where I am now, or widescreen. So if I need to make, say, a YouTube cover banner, like for this live event, I could choose widescreen. Then from there, you can choose content type. It can either default to auto, or you can choose art or photo. And for the type of imagery that I like and the words that I choose, I tend to choose art more than photo because my imagery is not, say, photorealistic. It's more, surreal, dreamy, etc. Underneath that is a composition reference area where you can either select a preset kind of composition, or if you have anything from a already made image that you want to then use again as a reference for the same type of text prompt, or if you have a simple black and white sketch. So if you have a pen drawing or pencil drawing and you've scanned it, you can use that as a reference, which is really good for like the perspective or the angle, So that's good for that. And you can upload that there or browse a gallery. And then you can choose the strength, the visual intensity of your style. And I usually bring it to the right. I like it to kind of be, a bit more, have an oomph to it. And then there's visual intensity. So there's visual intensity styles. So you can once again browse their gallery, or if you have a style reference you want. So just to clarify, the top one's composition. So like the composition, going left to right, or, how you've composed it in a grid. And then the second one is style reference, which is more like, as an example, this one on the left here, you can get this purple and magenta neon look. And then from there, you have a huge amount of effects. So there's movements, Art Deco, Art Nouveau, Baroque, Cubism. So you can have a lot of fun. I mean, you can spend a lot of time just kind of trying the different styles. And just like the little preview shows you, do be aware that if you had a full color image, but you liked the film noir kind of look or texture, just be aware that if you click on it, it will strip down the color and make it basically black and white with maybe a touch of color. So same with pointillism. You don't want to click on pointillism if you want like a full color effect. But yeah, there's plenty. And then so here there's even surrealism. I'm not sure if you put the word surreal landscape, if you even need to click on surrealism as a option, because it's already kind of focusing on that. But I'm going to be experimental, give it a try. And then I might look through and see if there's anything else. So I might also, instead of this kind of look, I might click on, say, geometric and get a geometric kind of stylization. It's pretty nice. And then just to go through all the options, watercolor, splattering, stippling, a lino cut or ink style, lots of choices to choose from. And then beyond that, especially if you're focusing on, say, a photo kind of style, when you get down to the bottom, first you have color tone. So you can choose cool tone, golden, monochromatic, etc. But in terms of, like I said, photography, there's a whole section for lighting. So you can do backlighting, dramatic lighting, golden hour, harsh light, low lighting, long time exposure, etc. And then it even has, go back to lighting, surreal lighting. So I might as well choose that just because I'm curious. And then once again, if it was a photo option, photo style instead of art, it has a whole bunch of options for camera angle. So you have landscape or macro photography, shot from below, wide angle, etc. Now, the one thing to be aware of that's very important when you're working with Adobe Firefly, and probably also it's a good thing then to be aware of when you work with any of the other ones. Once you've created like a series of 4 like this, if you like them, one, you can see a bigger version by clicking on them, and then you can just hit the right arrow. And so say I like this one, you would go to the top right to download. And then they're also letting you know that you can add it or bring it into Adobe Express. And then from the bottom, you can favorite it if you want it to be part of like your favorites gallery. And then with the upload icon, when you click on that, you can copy a link to the image or copy the image, save to your library, or submit to gallery. So this is where you would go to submit to gallery, and it, puts your name there. Then you hit next, and it then reminds you that if it's added to the gallery, anyone can view the image, also use and remix the prompt, and like your image. So, so certain images that I think are good from a series, I will submit to the gallery. I was going to, Michael, any questions so far?
One quick question. Can everybody hear me?
Yep. Sound good?
Okay. How long does it take to get your feet on the ground with Adobe Firefly?
So it's really kind of an experimental thing. So, as long as you have some good solid prompts, and then here's another one I like, someone hit download, maybe favorite, and then submit to gallery. Once you have a good solid prompt, you put it in, you choose art or photo, you choose the aspect ratio for the kind of layout size. And then I would just spend time going through the different options. So there's all the different creative techniques and themes. And then, like I said, if you choose something that's going to be more of a photo focus, then you have like the lighting and camera angle. But it's really kind of something where the more you play, the more you get comfortable with it and kind of know what to expect. And then you know what to do or where to go to get a certain effect or style that you want.
Is it a pay to play?
Right. So there is free, like if you go to firefly.adobe.com, there is free direct way to use it, but it might also prompt you to log into your Adobe Creative Cloud account. If you already are an Adobe Creative Cloud subscriber, then you will most likely get more credits. So that's a great question. Now, if you look to the top right, if I go here, I think I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So if I zoom in here, you'll see that it tells me what my monthly generative credits are. So in my case, I have 1,350 credits. And there is 1,346 credits left out of the 1,350 that I get per month. And that just reminds you when you're running low on credits, you can continue generating content. I think it might slow down a little bit, but you can still kind of pretty much just do what you need to do. So you will get different credits depending on if you are an Adobe Creative Cloud subscriber as opposed to someone using it for free. And I do see that Annette has a question. Do you keep your images with their prompts and appropriate adjustments in a database for reference? Great question. So yeah, so what I will do is I'm on a Mac and I use Apple Notes. So for the Apple Notes app, I have one for one for AI art, one for new AI text prompts, and another one just general text prompts. And so I will have it in either one of those three notes, and I tend to move them around. So if it starts off in the new AI text prompts, I might go back and review in a month and then move that to the regular one. So I do keep my prompts that are successful. And then what I will do is I break down my images by the app. And so I have a whole folder for Adobe Firefly. I have a folder for Image Creator in Bing or from Microsoft. I have a whole folder for Leonardo. And then, so those will be the original images, but I also have a main AI art, digital art folder on an external. And that'll be like the images that I will tweak in Photoshop. So just to kind of follow through with what I started. So these are the images I started with. Also, it's good to know that if you liked the whole series, you can go to that top right area and click download all. So one click of download all will download all 4 of them for you. Now, in this case, I did add geometric and surreal lighting. And I think I also clicked on surrealism for the theme, the kind of art style. Therefore, it hasn't been applied yet. So I'm curious. So I'm just going to, now that it's added those elements and it shows you as little kind of tabs here, I'm going to hit the generate button and see if it's any different. It better be. I mean, I chose geometric.
Geometric surreal.
So it might be slightly, more vectorized type of style, but sometimes it's really like hit or miss, where like you put in the criteria and you choose those different options, and it still kind of ignores you and just gives you a similar style to what you had. So it's a hit or miss game. But yeah, any questions, Michael, about the Firefly itself?
I'm just wondering if maybe they have a way to compare your original image to your adjusted image. Once you do
Yeah,
the generate.
I think they don't want, maybe it's a preserving of server space. They don't give you that option, but what you can tend to do is, you just be quick to download any images you like. And so after that, you can then go to your desktop or whatever folder you might bring them into, and then compare them that way.
Yeah, you could do that, or if you have snippet, you could snip the image and pull it to your other monitor, and then
Sure,
compare them between the two monitors.
that's right. Okay, so I'm going to grab another.
Of course, you got to be careful about your monitor settings.
Yeah, I do have 2 monitors, so it's easy for me to kind of go back and forth, compare and stuff. So just for the sake of fun, so what I'm going to do is, it says surrealism, geometric, surreal lighting. I'm just going to clear all those. Just hit the clear button. Select the previous prompt, hit delete, and then paste a new one, which is going to be surreal sunset, where the sun is a giant glowing eye. And then you'll notice that after typing that in, up just above is a series of prompt suggestions, which is nice. So if you felt that you had created the basics of creating this artwork, but you didn't feel you were descriptive enough, then the prompt suggestions have a little bit extra elements to them. So here's like they're adding a tranquil ocean with clouds in the sky above. So it's up to you, of course, to decide, do you want to keep focused to your prompt, or do you want to enjoy the prompt suggestions that they recommend? So in this case, again, I just hit generate bottom right, and then it gives you a new series of 4.
I have a question.
Yes.
It may not be the question may not be linked to this series, but I was wondering if in AI prompts, since we're talking about surrealism, I started thinking about movies, and I was thinking about the movie from 1956, Forbidden Planet. Would the AI in this system be able to draw on a database where it could bring details from a movie into a picture or an image?
Right. That's a great question. So, um, Adobe is trying to be more responsible than a lot of the other AI apps. And so Adobe also has like a content authenticity initiative, where you can go to a site and even like upload an image and just see if it has a kind of text right out of, where it was created from, what are the sources of it. And part of Adobe's responsibility with AI is that they're being very strict about like copyright and usage. So as an example, if you were to come up with a descriptive that you had in mind for an image, Michael, and then you added that name of that movie, you could say based on Forbidden Planet from 1956, and say you gave that to me in the private chat,
Mhm.
and I copied that and I put it into Firefly. Most likely, Firefly will either give me a warning or it will absolutely ignore the reference to the movie. And it does that also, just so people know, it will also do that in terms of, say, artists. So if I put an artist name, a lot of times it will ignore that artist name. Um, that being said, if I go to image creator in Bing or Leonardo AI, or if you go to Midjourney, there is no such restrictions.
Hmm.
So, as an example, I've gone to Leonardo, which I'll show you later today, and I put in, as an example, I wanted to do a series of images in the Shepherd Fairy style, that kind of woodcut.
Shepherd Fairy.
Yeah. So, yeah, Shepherd Fairy artist. I think he's also in LA, but he does kind of like he did like the Hope poster for Obama, and he does that very kind of simplified silk screen or woodcut kind of look, but he's got a certain style that's very recognizable. And so when I put his name in as a style reference, I got a series of images that looked just like his kind of aesthetic. But the thing that was funny about Leonardo is beyond the initial grouping of, say, 4 images, when I generated it again, they started creating images of Shepherd Fairy. So I wanted to use him as a style reference, but they started kind of just focusing him as the subject.
The man himself was stylish.
Now, do you have the text prompt? Because I'm curious to see, that'll be a good segue to go into the other AI apps to see what does what with the same prompt.
Well, we're talking about surrealism today, so the name that pops up in my head is Salvador Dali.
Right. But do you have like, do you have a descriptive of an image of what you want, and then saying with the style of Forbidden Planet from 1956? If could you put that in the private chat, and then I'll copy that and I'll use that.
I can
Unless you
create
don't want
one.
to. If you don't want to, then I'll take one of the prompts I have and I say in the style of Salvador Dali and see if that works. What
Yeah,
do you
why don't we do that?
Okay. So
That'll be quicker.
sure. Let me just check my prompts that I have already. Okay, so this one sounds like it might be his type of imagery. Okay, so what I do is, like I said, I go to my Apple Notes app. I grab new prompt: fantastical planet where the ocean meets the sky, with fish swimming through the clouds and birds diving into the sea. Um, and I could say in the style of
Oops.
Salvador. That's how you spelled Salvador, correct?
Yes.
Maybe there's no E. I think it's trying to correct me.
Uh,
So, and I'll say in the style of Salvador Dali. I'll copy this, and then what I'll do is I'll go and hit generate while I'm in Firefly and see what it does. And that's saying Robbie the robot could do all this for us. So yeah, so here you do get the monkey saying one or more words may not meet user guidelines and were removed. So they most likely removed Salvador Dali.
Okay.
So what I will tend to do is I'll close that, and then I'll click to get a bigger view. And then a lot of times you got to inspect your images that are generated, and they're hit or miss. So look at a bird. One bird might look kind of realistic, and you look at another one and it looks very abstract. And I'll tend to just kind of go through. And then one thing I tend to do, if we have time, I'll show you, is they might add too many repetitive elements. So I find like, there might be a few birds would look good, but they'll put like 10 or 12 birds. And they'll have like these weird kind of abstract shapes around them. And I'll be like, I don't really need all that. So I will tend to use like the remove tool in Photoshop and clean that up. Um, that's kind of like the whales in this one though. This one's
And
more
how about, let's say that there's an image of a bird or a detail that you want larger.
right, and that's another one that um, I'm a big fan of Topaz Photo AI.
Hmm.
So anytime I work on my images, I will bring them into Photoshop and I will use the Topaz Photo AI that's like a plugin inside my Photoshop, and I'll resize it and it'll bring out really nice detail so I won't lose detail. And then from there, I then bring it back into Photoshop and then I go to filter, camera raw, and then in the camera raw filter, I will do tonal and color correction and adding some color grading. So here I wanted to go over that question about using a reference. So once again, just to make sure, I'm going to copy that fantastical planet with the ocean, etc., in the style of Salvador Dali, and then I'm going to use that as a segue to show some of the other ones. So the other one is you can get to by going just to bing.com/images/create or search for Microsoft. I don't even think you need to type in Bing, but it's Microsoft Bing Image Creator. You could just say Image Creator from Microsoft. You get the same thing. And then this is their interface. And so they have a bunch of different images where if you click on theirs, it will generate like a series of 4 for you. But, it's a nice way to directly get the prompt that works for an image you like and then go back in and tweak it to personalize it a little bit. But they have quite the variety of styles. There's kind of like a cut paper style and surreal style, maybe a painterly styles. But up at top is the prompt kind of pasting area. So I'll paste that in and then we will see if it does reference Salvador Dali. So far, Microsoft Bing Image Creator does not have like a plan. So you only get like 15 credits per day. I think if you do like, if you subscribe to like Dolly 3 and you get the like professional subscription version, it's basically the same processing engine, but there you do pay a monthly fee and you would get a lot more credits. If there's anybody who does do the Dolly 3 subscription, if you can let me know how much that is per month and how many credits, that would be nice. Otherwise, the free version, you get 15, and then you just hit the create button top right. And then it does this little progress bar. And it should create 3 or 4 images. But if anyone does use the subscription version of Dolly, please let me know how much that is per month and how many credits you get. But with this free version, you get 15 per day. And I don't use it that often, so I think 15 is fine. And sometimes it doesn't even take. Like it started with 15, I just created 4, and it's still at 15.
That's a good parking meter.
The best parking meter. So then when I click on it, similar to Firefly, you get the bigger version, and then it reminds you of what the prompt was, and it tells you what the dimensions are, 1024 by 1024. You can save it, which I guess would save it to a library of, excuse me, a library of sorts. My fan is tickling my throat. Or you can download it. And what I tend to do is I like to go through. I kind of like the texture, the spiral on the planet or the world here. So I'll download that. And I'll kind of go through. I like that. But this might be a good example of where I want to clean up the excess fish. I like some of them, but there's too many. And then go through. So I'm not sure if there's an overly Dali-esque influence on it by using that. But as you can see, creating an image with the Microsoft Image Creator is very direct, there's no frills. The images on the right are previous images. You can click on Surprise Me, which maybe I'll do right now. So I hit Surprise Me. I'm not sure if that, see, so that doesn't even, that replaced my prompt. Now it says a vintage microphone robot digital art. So then you have to hit create, and then it would create a whole new series. But what I'm going to do is take that same prompt and go into Leonardo next and see if it does reference Salvador Dali better.
Melting watches and crutches.
So now it looks like it created images, but it's not showing them. They're all black to blend with the background. There we go.
You really have to use your imagination.
That's right. So I'm going to hit create again and see. But the fact that it's not taking the tokens makes me think there's maybe a bug with Microsoft Bing Image Creator today. I've never had problems, which is ironic, until I go live.
Till you go live.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
we might come back to it later or something.
Yeah, maybe I'll refresh the page. Whatever. Okay, but I did want to show you if you use the same prompt in the reference to Salvador Dali, but you go to Leonardo. Yeah, because it's also not showing. It's got the broken preview image icon. So now if you go to Leonardo, that's you can just type in Leonardo AI, or the direct URL is app.leonardo.ai. And this is kind of like the home page. Once again, it's got the gallery. If you
I like the burning woman there. Wow.
Yeah, so you can get some pretty
She's
surreal.
really hot, Andrew.
She's hot. And then you can see it shows the whole prompt. If you were to click on it, it would take you there, and then you could, do similar. But there's a whole variety of styles. And I would say that apps like Leonardo and Midjourney are pretty much like the best. I mean, if you look at some of the detail, some of these are pretty nice. And then if you look over on the left, you have image creation, motion, real-time canvas, real-time generation, canvas editor. There's a universal upscaler, and there's different fine-tuned models, etc. So what you do is you go to image creation, and this is some of the images I've created recently. And then it even has the last prompt that you had. And here I did have like reference to Herb Ritz, Obsidian Moon Citadel. So, I mean, you can be more descriptive here. So what happens first is there's presets. And so you just have to hover to get a kind of definition of what you get. Lately, I've been enjoying this kind of illustrative AI style preset. And then contrast, you choose low, medium, or high. Medium's good. They give you a generation mode of fast or quality focused. I usually think quality is better. And then image dimensions is similar to Firefly's aspect ratio. 1:1 would be the square, or 16:9 if I'm making like a YouTube thumbnail. So 1:1 is good. And then you usually get four images I like as a preview. You can choose one or two if you want. I don't know why you would do that. And then under advanced settings, you then have the different models. And that, I have to admit, I get a little frustrated that I don't find the best literature on the different models. And some of them seem kind of similar. You could just take the time to type that out in a Google search. What is the Leonardo Lightning XL model focus on? And then type in the other ones. But I've seen a lot of good imagery come from Albedo Base XL. So I tend to default to that one. So I've got the preset of illustrative Albedo, and I chose the Albedo Base XL for the model, set to 4 images. And then instead of the previous one, I'm going to select that and delete, and then paste the fantastic planet where ocean meets the sky, and then referencing Salvador Dali. And that takes up 40 tokens. As you can see here, I'm on the paid plan. I think I normally get 15,000 a month. I've been busy with other things, so I haven't been creating as much. So the latest change they made is they do let you bring your tokens over. So I've got 21,284 tokens because it brought over like a month and a half of unused tokens. I've never heard of Tengray. There's an artist I know with that name. Ian says looks amazing. Thank you. And then Karen says in Bing you can create without credits. It just creates a bit slower. Yeah, it does seem like it does that. I don't know why it's not working today, but okay. So here we are in Leonardo, and this is why I like Leonardo the most. So the minute I click on Leonardo, there's just a bit more depth here, and it looks like a real painting at the bottom. It looks like a kind of an oil painting. So there's a bit more depth, more detail, and just just the quality is better. And then there is, some weird kind of abstract shapes that I would retouch out. But some of the fish here, and if I can zoom in, the quality is nice. And there's even some nice kind of shading that goes on with it. So a bit of a fan of the Leonardo. So this is a nice one. And then the same type of thing, if you go to the bottom, you can organize it into a new collection, or you can click the download image button. Otherwise, you can remove background. There's an Alchemy smooth upscale, so you can upscale without losing quality or it becoming pixelated. And then there's a crisp upscaler, so there's smooth or crisp. And then there's just general Alchemy upscaler. And then there's a delete image button. So if you don't like that series, you can get rid of it. That one's kind of nice too. I like the little boat in the front. But let me grab another prompt that might be. This is kind of fun. Okay. So now what I'd like to do is show the difference between all three. So if I'm in Firefly and I put in the new prompt, planet covered in giant mushrooms with intricate patterns where the air is filled with luminescent insects. How's that for surreal?
That is good thinking, Andrew.
And then now all I do is hit generate. If I wanted to, if I had a sketch, I could use it as the reference for the composition. I can choose the aspect ratio size, and I can also change the style reference or go through many of the different movements, themes, techniques, or effects. In this case, I usually like to see what it looks like in its first series. So I just hit generate.
Cue the background music.
Okay, so this is Adobe Firefly. We're in a world of mushrooms, kind of like that one. And you'll notice there's a certain kind of texture. I've noticed this lately. There's this certain texture of illustration coming out lately. And here's one. It's a bit more kind of vector style. These are nice. So that's Firefly for that prompt. Now with the exact same prompt, and hopefully Image Creator will let me create. I'm going to paste the same prompt in again, and then just hit create and see how different that is from Firefly.
The image creator god's a little fickle today.
Yeah, your image is being created by AI, it says, a little preview. Pretty good. So when you click on these, okay. So now it's just teasing me. Like, okay. I thought it was going to like blank out on me. So these are pretty good. So this is similar to Firefly, some of the textures, but maybe a slightly better sense of depth of field, and more detail. And I can just cycle through. These are pretty cool. And I can download any one I like. Now, the one thing to be aware of with Microsoft Image Creator, you do not own the rights to these images. I don't think that you can technically use them like if you wanted to print them out on a T-shirt or sell them. It's a bit murky as to how you can use them. So obviously you can post them on social, but I'm not sure if technically you can sell them as such. Whereas with Firefly, you own the rights to your images, and with Leonardo and I believe Midjourney, you do. So with that same exact prompt, I'm now going to jump over to Leonardo, select the previous prompt, delete, and then paste the new one, planet covered in giant mushrooms. I'm going to keep the same settings and just hit generate. And then Annette, who's attending, you said, do you ever use Tengray? Is Tengray just like this, like a similar AI art generator, or does it also do video? How might it be different? It's taking a little time here. It's like 40 seconds. Okay, so these, once again, this is why I subscribe to Leonardo. It's pretty nice. I mean, the sense of depth and the lighting and stuff is very nice. And then if you like it, you just hit the download image, and then I can forward. That one's pretty cool. That one will be nice to work on. So I'm going to work on this in Photoshop. Wow, that's pretty cool too. I think that'll look good and playing with contrast or like a dodge and burn type of style. But, just real quick to show you. So here's Firefly, a certain kind of illustrative style. It's got that kind of texture to it. And then same prompt brought into Microsoft Image Creator. Similar texture, but maybe a bit more imaginative with the design. And then bringing it into Leonardo, most descriptive, most detailed. So big fan. Pretty happy with that one too. So now Annette asked, do I prefer Leonardo to Midjourney? I don't use Midjourney. So I think I tried to start using Midjourney, and there was a lot of like technical things I had to do. It might be changed, but you had to do a lot of kind of coding or something. And I was like, that's not the way my brain works. So I was like, I want to do it direct, where I put in the prompt and then tweak different options. So I never got into Midjourney. Okay, and that says she uses the free version of Tengray. Okay, so with the remaining time, I'd like to show what I tend to do with my images. So I'm going to go over to Photoshop. You can see my Photoshop, right, Michael?
Yep.
And any questions before I jump on here? No? Okay, so I'm just going to my desktop and cycling through. That was from an Adobe Express thing. There's this one and that one. Maybe this one. Okay, so I was saying this one might be really nice for working on in Photoshop. Okay, so the first thing is, I'll bring an image into Photoshop. And then, so when I go to the image size, it says it is 1792 by 1792 pixels. So typically the first thing I do, just so you can see my workflow, is I have a series of actions I've worked on throughout the years. I might duplicate it first and then give it a title, like, Mushroom World. I don't know. And then I might tend to put in like digital artist Andrew Kavanagh or digital art by Andrew Kavanagh. So digital art by Andrew Kavanagh. So it's always got kind of like my name as part of the image that I worked on. And so I might close the original. I have this. And then what I do is I go back to my actions where I've already installed the plugin for Topaz. And so the second one down, Topaz Photo AI, once I click it, it opens into its own new window. It's reading the image. I don't know why it's slow. Okay. So then this comes up with and I see that there's an update to do, which I'll do afterwards, but there's like a before and after. And then there's a series of different options that you can have. And if you just go to add enhancements, there's denoise, sharpen, adjust lighting, balance color, preserve text, upscale, and then remove, like removing background. what I've done is I use upscale so often that I like to, whatever the size, the original size is, I like to make it 2048 by 2048. So I've set that as a preset. So all I have to do is click on the preset. You'll see the enhancing progress bar at the bottom. And then what it'll do is, in this view, you might not be able to see the most detail, but already I can see on the right, it looks like it's a little bit more contrast. And I believe if I zoom in, if I zoom in, it looks like there's a little bit more kind of bitmapped edges here on the left, whereas on the right, there's a bit smoother. So that's the first thing I'll do. That's just the upscale. And then what I might tend to do is you can sharpen the subject. When you do that, it creates a mask. Or if you click on the add enhancements, there's a whole sharpen function, which will get the whole image. And then you decide which model you want to use for it. So standard, lens blur, motion blur, strong, natural. Standard's pretty good. And then strength, just like it sounds, the stronger, the more you go to the right, the stronger or the more intense the sharpening will be. And sometimes it defaults to a lot of denoise, but I don't feel like it needs to do that so much. So I'll bring the denoise down, and then I'll bring the strength around 18 to 22. And then I look for the progress bar at the bottom. Once you see the check mark, you can either, just take a look or zoom in. I see it's got some good detail. Bottom right, I just say export to Adobe Photoshop. And then I have my image, and then I can turn it on, turn it off, and kind of make a simple comparison. And then the next thing I do, so it's kept some good detail, I will go up to Filter, Camera Raw, and then it has this whole window, which I really like. I zoom out a little bit, and then starting with color, I'll decide if I want it to be a bit more blue or a bit more the golden color. So if I go left, it'll add more kind of blue punch to the background. And I've noticed if I go to the vibrance slider to the right, that'll make the blue even more pronounced. Whereas the yellow of the mushroom itself is kind of overlooked. But if I go to saturation and I move that to the right, that will bump up the yellows and the oranges a bit. I don't want to overdo it or else it gets, kind of neon, but just a little bit of a punch to give to it. Maybe bump up the vibrance as well. And then the thing I like about working in Camera Raw is the bottom right. You have this default toggle. So that's the original, and then that's after. So you can see already the blue is more kind of saturated and intense. And the glow's got a nice glow. And then from there, if I go down to light, that's where I can do my tonal correction. So I might open up the exposure a little bit. Just be careful. The slider moves pretty fast. So you don't want to overdo it. If you do overdo it, with any of these slider tabs, you just double click, you go back to 0. So just do it like, maybe 25. And then I like to do contrast, which will give it a sense of depth. So it looks a little flat. And then the minute I do this up to about 18 to 20, it has more of a kind of almost 3D quality. If I feel highlights are blown out, I can pull that to the left. And I usually bump the whites to the right for a bit of a punch. So now if I go, here's before, there's after. It's kind of more vibrant, more tonal contrast, more details coming out. And then speaking of details, I'll go down to effects, where I'll move the texture slider to the right about 21 or 18. And that just kind of brings out the kind of sharpness of the details. So once again, that's before, very yellow, and kind of some of the areas are not really popping, being showcased. And then once you do that, you can see like the edges of the mushrooms up top a little bit better. And then I hit OK. And then I have my before and after. And then the thing that I like about working, I always go to Topaz, so it creates its own layer first. The thing I like about working on its own independent layer is if I want to see a before and after, and I decide that I like some of the original color, I can just, with that top layer, add a layer mask, choose a brush, hit my right bracket to make it a little bit larger. And then for flow, I bring it down to like 30 or 35. And then with black as my foreground color, I can say, you know what, maybe I'll bring back some of that original yellow around the base of the mushroom. And I can bring some of that kind of more intense yellow. And I'll turn it on, turn it off, and see if there's other areas where I might want to bring the original color back. Pretty cool.
Very cool.
And then I'll just save that. So I'll just do a today color, save that as Photoshop. So let me jump on back into the room. Any questions about the process?
I have a question.
Okay.
Just using that last image with the mushroom
Mm-hmm.
as an example, could you take pieces of a photograph in which you photograph some mushrooms and insert those mushrooms into your AI image?
Well, yeah, through Photoshop I would. So,
Hmm.
so let me go back, share my screen. And I won't necessarily do a photo, but I might grab another image and just. There we go. And then I'm going to switch over to Photoshop. So here I'm in Photoshop. So I'm in this image, and then I open from the desktop. Well, yeah, maybe just something completely different. So maybe I'll open this kind of world. So the first thing is with any image I bring into Photoshop, I almost automatically create like a new layer, or then if I'm going to go back and forth with the camera raw filter, I will convert it to a smart object. In this case, I'm just going to go once, so I'm fine. But I might go in and I might do a quick camera raw tweak. So color, maybe a little bit more blue, bump up the vibrance, and then for light, kind of do the exposure and contrast, maybe bring out some texture a little bit. And then in this case, there's two ways of working where you could drag that whole image over to the mushroom image and then with a layer mask kind of erase, or you could focus on that area first, and it's pretty solid circle. So I go up to the marquee tool. Instead of the rectangular, I choose the elliptical, and then holding Option and Shift, I click and pull to make like a complete circle. And then I like the way it is. I don't really need to make it bigger, but I wanted to show a feature that I really love, just so people know it exists. Once you make a rectangular or circular elliptical selection like this, if you right click, there is an option to transform selection, which is pretty cool. So if I didn't get it on the first time, I don't have to start over. I just right click, choose transform selection, holding the Option key on a Mac, Alt on a PC. I go to a corner point and just extend it out, and then it kind of selects the bigger globe area. And then I just hit enter return to take that. And then what I will tend to do is right click, choose a feather. In this case, maybe something soft like a 3 to 6. And then I'm going to make a layer from that selection. So on a Mac, I do Command Option J. And I'd like to do Option J so I can name it. So I'll just say, I'll just call it Earth. It's a very abstract Earth, but it's Earth. And then, so if I turn off the other layers, you'll see that there it is as its own layer. And then I can bring that over. So then I can bring that over and then move it around to where I want. Maybe I want it in the top. It's just kind of like a floating planet. And so when you are creating a composition like this, do be aware that once you bring in an element like this, you can add a layer mask. And then if I zoom in and I choose a brush, maybe make the brush a little bit higher, like 42, with black as my foreground color, and it has the layer mask connected to that top layer, I can then paint, and that will show through some of the imagery behind. So it gives that kind of a transparent quality. And I can do it in other areas too. So that top right area and the bottom left. And then if I hit the X key and switch the foreground color to white, I can bring back certain areas if I want it to be more solid. And then one thing I really like about compositing is when you have an image in here, if you like that element, it's very easy. You just hold on the Option key on a Mac, Alt on a PC, and then click and drag, and then you can bring it anywhere else on your image. And then, of course, if you didn't like the semi-transparency layer mask, you can go to that layer. You can click on the layer mask itself and drag that to the trash and get rid of it. And in this case, I'm not going to apply the mask, so I hit delete, and there it is, just as that. It's kind of fun, right? So that's how you would, do some basic photo kind of compositing elements. But you can have fun with these AI art. Any last questions? I hope that helped, Michael, though, to kind of take you through the different steps. I mean, it's really kind of, the nature is to just kind of play with it, get comfortable with it as you're playing, and then with that knowledge, then take on more kind of serious projects that you might have. But I think it's just playing is kind of the best way to get comfortable with those apps.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Fun? Was it fun, Michael?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And that says I have to shoot through, and just want to say thank you both. Thank you for attending, Annette.
Thanks, Annette.
Yeah. So in general, thanks everyone for attending, and let me give a little bit of shout out to things. So, and
Is
then
John Williams there? Is
he
John Williams?
he was. I'm not sure if he's still here, but I think he said he had to go, but he might check out the recording later.
Well, I want to just get into the recording, the official recording.
Yeah.
Whether
I'll be posting.
I wanted to know whether John was wearing a wig today.
If you've seen John, I don't think he's got the shaved head.
Yeah.
But now, pretty much this was a way to just show the different AI apps and answer some questions. But okay, Joe says thank you for this wonderful meeting. Great.
Thanks, Joe.
But I did want to say, quick shout out that Michael is quite the artist himself. And so please check out his work on Instagram at instagram.com, Michael K. Benz. And then do consider subscribing for more Photoshop and Lightroom or AI art and digital art focused live streams like this one, and tutorials on my YouTube. That's youtube.com/DrewCav, youtube.com/DrewCav, or you could search for Drew Cav on YouTube. And then consider to like my digital artist Drew Cav page on Facebook, facebook.com/digital artist Drew. And we have moved the Photoshop and Lightroom group over to a new space after getting some weird violations from Facebook. So come join the new Photoshop and Lightroom group, facebook.com.
What were you doing, Andrew?
No, it wasn't me. facebook.com/groups Photoshop and Lightroom group. It was some like copyright violations.
I think it was those Obsidian Moon
That's right.
sketches that you did.
Facebook didn't like it. And then if you aren't in the group already, consider joining the AI Art and Digital Art group, facebook.com/groups AI Art Digital Art. So yes, thanks everybody. And quick thing too, also a bit of shout out. I'm a BenQ ambassador, so I do recommend BenQ monitors. There's a new one, the BenQ PD3225U 4K Thunderbolt 3 monitor, great for Macs that came out. beautiful deeper blacks. Um, there's a color tonal control for Mac devices. Thunderbolt 3 compatible M-Book mode display P3. Really great BenQ monitors. Totally recommend. Beautiful monitors for photographers, digital artists, Photoshop artists. So yes. And Karen says thank you. So thanks everyone for attending. And
Thanks,
as
Karen.
usual, keep your eye on the top of the groups for the top pin post where I post the link to the recording, as well as any special news, information, or contests. And or you can catch the link to the recording on the event page, as well as my Facebook timeline, which is facebook.com/Andrew.Kavanagh. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thanks,
And,
Andrew. Very
see,
good.
see everyone in the group.
Okay.